the peace committee and make it click? What are the options before the union government? Watch the big debate. Manipur Searching Peace. On the panel, 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗏, Professor JNU. 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏𝗏, journalist and founder, Northeast Stories. 𝗟𝗜𝗙𝗘. Coming up from the Northeast Live Studios in Guwahati, Northeast Tonight with Wasbir Hussain.
Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. Has the law and order situation collapsed in Manipur? Well, that's what senior BJP leader from Manipur and Union Minister of State for External Affairs 𝗟𝗓𝗏 said on Friday after his private residence in the heart of Imphal was set ablaze by a large mob. Ranjan said the government in the state has failed to maintain order and restore peace, despite the centre rushing thousands of security personnel to the strife-torn state. But the big question is, how does one restore peace in Manipur at this juncture when the Meitei-Kuki divide has widened, perhaps like never before? Besides, the state not only has to deal with the clashes between the two communities, but is having to battle angry mobs in the Imphal Valley who are burning down homes of elected representatives, apparently because they hold the government and the government leaders responsible for having failed to protect them from attackers. Now, what's the road to peace in Manipur? Can the government revive the peace committee and make it start work? Will Chief Minister Biren Singh pull out of the peace committee to appease the cookies who have a trust deficit on him? Or will he stay on because withdrawing from the peace committee may further anger the Meiteis? Can't he have a peace committee at this critical juncture without politicians? Will some Meitei and Kuki civil society groups or individuals stick their neck out and try to talk peace and bridge the divide? Unless people walk the extra mile, restoring peace in Manipur certainly looks difficult. Well, to take the discussion forward, I am joined from New Delhi by Ms. 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏𝗏, journalist and founder, Northeast Stories. Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏𝗏 from Jawaharlal Nehru University, one of the most well-known voices, also joins me from New Delhi. And in our studios, I have with me Dr. 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 party as well is 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡, former editor of the Imphal Free Press, currently an independent journalist. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Northeast Tonight. I'd like to give the courtesy first to begin the show by going to a lady. Let me go to you, 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡. Chitra, are you saddened today? So many people are dying. As far as I am concerned, I am equally concerned. I am only concerned that people are dying. I won't like to distinguish between whether the person who is dead or who are dying are Meiteis or Kukis. That is not important. Important is that human beings are getting killed and the state has not been able to do much to protect them so far. And what are we going to do as individuals? Chitra.
It's not just a sense of sadness that fills, I think, not just me, but I think it holds equally true for Hoinu, as much as it holds true for 𝗟𝗩𝗪𝗘 also. And a lot of people, regardless of who we are, which community we belong to, which political ideology we are, because we have never seen such vehement reactions coming in from either side in all these years of violence. Violence is nothing new in Manipur. Sad to say, but it's nothing new. We have, growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was something that you knew was happening right in your backyard, and yet. And being a part of the media fraternity, where you are jettisoned, both between the army on one hand and the underground groups on the other, you get to see things very, very, up close and personal. And yet, what is happening right now, spilling over from the actual to even the internet and the social media, the kind of hatred that is being poured, it's very disturbing. And also, at one point of time, you were far removed from it. As a journalist, I might see bodies before me, or I might see photographs, but here it is being played and replayed over and over again through social media. So there is no escaping. And so I would say it's not just sadness, it's also a sense of hopelessness, not knowing where this is going, who is going to listen, who is going to make the first move. But it's very disturbing. I would say it's very disturbing for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Turning to you, Hoinu Hausal. Hoinu, who, like Chitra said, it is not just sadness, it is a sense of hopelessness. It is 1.5 months now, exactly 1.5 months today, since the violence began. Now, who is going to make the first move? Is it an ego clash? My question is, okay, the peace committee was formed. We all know that the violence took place. More than 100 people lost their lives. More than 40,000 people have been displaced from their huts and homes. Thousands of houses have been burned down. Educational future of the education of children in Manipur looks absolutely uncertain. And do you think the state can control this situation as it stands today? Who is going to make the first move? I'm asking about the communities. We have reached such a stage that we have realized that the state may not be able to succeed unless individuals and community groups come forward. Hoinu.
Wasbir, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I absolutely echo what Chitra had just spoken. Of course, we all put aside a personal sense of grief and loss. And as we look ahead, what do we see? On the 47th day of the mayhem, we are still discussing online what is the road ahead. What does it reflect? First of all, an apathy from the power that be, apathy from people who could have stepped in to douse that fire of hatred. How did we let it happen? Manipur is not such a big state. And we have had history of violence. Like Chitra said, I would like to emphasize and stress upon the magnitude in which it underplayed and unfurled so much of hatred. Did we ever know that this could play up to be something like this? It is saddening. I am at a loss for words. I wouldn't say I'm without hope. I do hope that there are some things that are being done, some strategies, I hope they're being worked upon that would appease both the parties and bring to the fore what would be the road ahead. I mourn the loss of future for the students. How are we going to rebuild? How are we going to restore? Once again, how are we going to be on that map of progress and development? Today, our enemy is illiteracy. Our enemy is underdevelopment. Our enemy is unemployment, corruption.
Right.
But today, we are made to feel like our enemies are the people who we have been living with together for over the years, over the decades. So I also feel a sense of being misled. And
Absolutely.
I mourn and I lament greatly at the loss of lives from both sides. When I think about it, I shudder to think how long is it going to take for us to come back to the road of development,
right,
where we were lured that there is something happening in our state. But I feel let down, terribly let down today.
Right. Coming to you, Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗪. Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗪 is a veteran observer and commentator of things in the northeastern region. I mean, Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗪, what has gone wrong? What has gone wrong? Because we have seen this violence. When when insurgent groups can talk to the government, when insurgent groups are talking to the government and working on a road to peace, let's take the case of the Nagas. A ceasefire is in place for close to 30 years now, almost 30 years that a ceasefire is in place in Nagaland. Now this violence in Manipur, we have seen the Kuki-Naga clashes before. There were other clashes, ethnic clashes in Manipur. What has gone wrong this time that no one is willing to forget and forgive and face each other and talk? The 10 Kuki MLAs, Kuki Chin MLAs have not visited Imphal since the violence began. So there is a political disconnect between the hills and the valley. There is no face-to-face meeting. Some people may be talking on the phone, that's fine. But there is no face-to-face meeting in front of the cameras for the people to see that actually people are meeting. What has gone wrong this time, Professor Oinam?
See, more the days passed by, and the kind of news that has come up, very striking, surprising news coming from different corners, like UK Editor-in Chief declaring out that BJP has to come clean about the commitment they had for helping the BJP candidates to win elections. Now, this is a revealing story to me that is all this violence a planned one? That is what I am made to think. Because as you have rightly said, normally when insurgent groups look out to aim to gain certain political ends that they desire, normally the strikes is to the security forces or the government machineries. But this is a very rare case in which the civilians were targeted. And even civilians were used as human shield. I make a distinction. Many says I'm going soft, but I see a distinction between Kuki militants and Kuki civilians. And I don't think all Kuki civilians, villagers, poor people there living side by side along with the Meiteis ever wants a violence to happen. So there are certain vested interest groups that are in play. And even within the Meitei community, I think there are some hardliner groups that have come up very strongly now. And that is creating all the havoc. And when violence erupts and people have guns in their hands, the common voices, it's very, very difficult to expect them to come up. Unlike the Kuki groups, among the Meiteis, I have seen, maybe I'm wrong, I'm in Delhi, but I'm trying to watch as closely as possible, is that the anger at the level of the people is very, very high among the Meiteis.
Right.
For the Kukis, I am not able to see that much. It happened on the 3rd, the madness, and I believe that 3rd May episode could have been avoided. Some Kuki civilians were used, I believe, by the militant groups. And then the things that happened in 𝗟𝗓𝗪 and subsequently 3rd, 4th night. But after that, it has been largely the Kuki militants that has been in the helm of the affairs. Lastly, if you remember by the episode, 27th, 28th, when the new parliament building was inaugurated, 28th was the date, when there were strikes from the Kuki Chin group or Kuki militants.
Right.
Even there too, I don't think Kuki villagers were really there.
Right.
So that is what I want to submit. We need to see the distinction.
Absolutely.
And the four mixed voices that remains.
Absolutely. Professor Bhagat Oinam, you made a very important point. Professor Oinam has made a very important point. Professor Oinam has said that we have to make a distinction between people wielding guns, whether they are militants or otherwise, and the common people. Hoinu Hausel, Professor Oinam has very rightly said there may be some people holding guns. We may call them Kuki rebels. But it is a fact that whether it is the Meiteis, whether it is the Kukis, the entire civilian population has not joined this madness. They are not killing each other. The entire population is not killing each other. Stories have emerged during this crisis of Kukis helping the Meiteis to safety. Similarly, Meiteis helping the Kukis to safety. These stories we have seen. These are facts. Nobody can deny this. How do you make a distinction? Chief Minister Biren Singh says that this is not a fight between two communities, Kukis and the Meiteis. This is a fight between security forces and illegal infiltrators. Obviously, illegal infiltrators from Myanmar, who obviously again are Kuki Chin people. That's what Chief Minister Biren Singh's theory is.
There are many theories that are coming out at this time, and it is but natural that we tend to look at things from a vantage point of view. But I would like to refrain myself from doing that for the interest of the road ahead of us, that we are seeking peace at the moment. And I would hesitate to say that I would refrain myself from saying that, you know, some who did this or who did that, or these are the civilians, or these are the, you know, I would refrain from calling out names. But I think in the face of danger, when it is a question of your life, people defend themselves, regardless of which group I'm talking about. I think when it's a question of survival, we are sitting in our own homes, in the safety of our homes, in a studio. But when people are right there, when it is a matter of their life, I don't know how they would defend themselves. How else would they defend themselves is my submission for the parties. And we have reached a stage where there is anger, simmering with anger. And for us to be debating and saying, you know, to sort of on their behalf, or rather our assumptions, it would be a little unfair. It would be a little unfair, really. And also, but I think time now is really to understand what is it that we could collectively do together. And your question about the lack of anger, or anger not being manifested in the Kukis, from what I understand, there is a certain ethics.
No, I didn't say that Kukis are not angry. I didn't say that, Hoinu.
The manifestation of anger, is that what you said?
No, I said that,
that
Chief Minister Biren Singh is saying that this is not a fight between communities. It is only infiltrators from Myanmar and the security forces. Is it as simple as that?
You know, the narrations have been changing. So I refrain myself from commenting on that, because on the day 1, 2, there was something else. And as the days progressed, there were narrations that kept changing. So I shall refrain myself from getting into that. But as far as the fight, I mean, or as far as how the Kuki organized themselves, from what I understood and what I've been seeing from where I am in the comfort of my home, I see there's a certain ethics which binds them. One, they do not touch women and children. They don't engage in any cold-blooded murder. They do not vandalize to the extent that would, and there's a certain ethics that guides them, even in the peak of their anger. That's how I am. That's how I make out of their, you know, their operations. But again, if we get to the point, then I don't think our discussions here will get nowhere. So I would really appreciate and request if we collectively use our wisdom and think what is the road ahead, rather than going back and saying, you know, how did it happen? Who did what? I think the real question is, how do we collectively put a collective wisdom together and at least gauge and see?
Let me ask Chitra. Now, Hoinu has said, yes, there is no point in looking back. We have to look forward, and we have to put our collective wisdom and find out how we can resolve the issue. But the point I'm asking is the divide that we are seeing today, the extent, the magnitude of the clashes, the divide, perhaps it has never been as wide as it has been now. Now, therefore, it is a bigger challenge. Peacemaking has become more challenging this time around. That is my personal observation. Now, do you agree with that? If so, how do we achieve a breakthrough to bring some sane people from both sides together face to face? Is it so difficult?
You know, you are saving your toughest questions for me, Wasbir. But having said that, you know, Hoinu has just put, one very critical dilemma, that we don't know what it is when we are left to defend something that is very dear to you and there's nobody to help you, and that this applies to both sides, right? So that is number one. Number two, and a very critical and very important fact of the matter is that the Meiteis, by dint of being the majority community and being majorly Hindus, are now being seen as the perpetrators and the oppressors, and hence guilty. And which adds to a sense of deep-rooted anxiety and concern, because we are seeing media coverage, we are seeing media narratives. Just the day before, I saw a post by 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏𝗧, where the Indian liberals are now casting one entire community as total hedonistic, total violent, total oppressors. Here we have Hoinu, who is seeing both sides, but a majority of people who are even not related to this issue at hand are cornering the Meiteis and painting us as killers of minority groups, persecutors of Christianity, and everything added to it. And that is going to add more and more angst to the Meiteis on the ground. And that is why when we talked about all the violence that is erupting, let me also just point out for a fact that all these attacks that has been happening for the past 2 days, there are reports, there has been an FIR launched against a particular gentleman belonging to a particular community who set fire to a house of his own community so that it would look like another community had set fire to it. So there are so many lumpen elements that are running riot, and yet it adds
Okay,
to
now,
the in the national media. Hang on, Wasbir, if you can just let me finish this question. So what then happens is that the Meiteis don't have any platform to be heard, because the entire community is being stamped as Majoritan, as Hindus, and hence, there is no value to what is happening with them.
Chitra,
so I think that's dangerous.
Chitra, you say, before going to Professor Bhagat Oinam, you are saying that Meiteis don't have a platform, but is it totally correct? Because the most of the influential media is located in the Imphal Valley, whether it is the print media, whether it is cable TV channels, which also has a large audience.
I'm glad you asked this question, because I have been editor of the Imphal Free Press, right? So see, it's like in India also, you have all the major channels are in Delhi, and then you have what is known as the bureau heads that are there in all the metros. So this comes from, number one, connectivity. It doesn't come from an agenda that says that, okay, 10 years ago we didn't decide that only Meiteis are going to own the media houses. There are other communities who own media houses and they have their own subscriptions. There are cable news channels that cater to certain districts. So there are newspapers in different languages, in different tribal areas. So there are all sorts of media there. Now we are talking about a situation where, number one, there is no internet connectivity, supposedly, because there are a lot of reports where there are reports coming out that VPN has been used, because we see a lot of social media updates.
We'll come to that. Chitra,
I'm talking about this because then it
let us not stick to this. Let us widen the debate.
I'm sticking to the media.
No, what I'm saying is that if people
Wasbir, may I just come here 1 minute, please?
Yes.
Chitra, while I agree with you,
no, I'll come to Professor Bhagat and then I'll come to Chitra.
Yeah.
Yes, if I can just finish.
Yeah.
No, because I want to look at this media thing. See,
Yeah.
when it's in normal times.
No, I was only asking. I was only asking a question. When you said Meiteis do not have a platform, not many people will accept that, because most of the media groups are based in Imphal, and you have, unlike most of the influential media groups are not based in 𝗟𝗓𝗏𝗧𝗏.
I was talking specifically about the national media narrative.
Okay, let us not talk about the national media. I don't consider it as national media. I consider it as just a minute. Let me speak. I consider it as a metropolitan media, because the national media, quote unquote, they paradrap one or two stories they do and they go back. So they are not like someone like us who have been covering the Manipur story day and night, 24/7. Yes, Hoinu, you make your point.
I just want to make a point here. I feel that Chitra, don't, I mean, well, we are not going to talk about the national media. So I would look at the 𝗡𝗡𝗥 journalists. They were really at a far more privileged position because they could file the stories from DIPR, which gave them internet access. So I think they were far more access. They had access here even when the people in the hills had just nowhere to, broadcast their stories. So I think even in this crisis, again, people in the valley, they had advantage because they had a place to go and file the stories. I'm in touch with some 𝗡𝗡𝗥 journalists, so they had internet. They were in touch with them. Yeah.
Point taken. Let me go to Professor Bhagat Oinam. Professor Oinam, has the present situation gone beyond a law and order issue? Here both communities are fighting for their identities. So it has become an absolute fight for identity. When the decks were cleared, apparently, when everybody thought that the decks were clear for the Métis to get their community in the scheduled tribe list, there was absolute fear in the hills because they thought that Métis are an advanced community already, and giving them ST status may deprive them of their own dues, which may not be the case. It is the Métis getting ST status. It is not the question of the cookies being deprived of whatever they are enjoying. That may be the real issue. But when the issue came, a lot of the fear and anxiety among the cookies. Therefore, now it's a fight for identity. The cookies won the identity tag. They said, we want a separate administration. We cannot live with the Métis anymore. The Métis are saying, no, Manipur is an integral part of the state. But if you consider Manipur as an integral part of the state, that means along with the area, you have to also live with the people elsewhere in Manipur, isn't it?
You seem to have asked only one question, but it was a series of questions put in together.
Yes.
But I will answer that linking with Hoinu. The point she made, and the other day we spoke over phone, and I really admire the way she is moving ahead with a peace initiative, and particularly making the women victims speak. And I think that is very, very important. And my heads off to you. And I'm there in whatever capacity I can join you. But one point where I would disagree with you, forgive me for my disagreeing, because I am also a person with my own personal and ideological thought in me. That is, if violence had started, it did not happen. It's not a natural calamity, right? It is a human-made, man-made violence, whoever has made it. And of course, there is a commission that has been made, and hopefully they will do their job. So I don't want to even talk now who has started and what. I mean, that's point. Even you were reluctant to even distinguish between the violent creator and the common people. But I'm not afraid I do that. Second point is coming from here, that peace cannot be in isolation, Hoinu. That work has to go on, and we have to encourage, and I'm always with you. Please call me anytime I can render my service. But how it started, everybody who are victim must get justice, whether it's the Kuki victims or Métis victims. Otherwise, that peace become empty bowl, because some culprits will commit mistakes deliberately and they will get away. And those who are common men face the brunt, and we keep only doing the firefighting. That's not enough. And the point further taking to what Wasbir was raising is it merely a law and order problem or something beyond? And I would say, yes, it is something more. It is no more limited to the law and order. Something which should have been, which was a matter of law and order. 3rd May, where was the police, right? Police did not function. Manipur police in Churachandpur did not function. Simple as that. And subsequently, whoever is the forces who were supposed to maintain peace and order just did not deliver. And now the anger has multiplied and multiplied and multiplied further. Now this political agenda that comes up, which seemingly looks like, again to Hoinu, I'm sorry if I sound little too political, please forgive me, I say once again, that this administrative, because you are doing a great job, I don't want to lose you as a friend. I'm telling you, I'm going to be harsh, and now I don't want to lose a possible cookie friend in you. The point that I'm saying is, when this violence keeps happening, and suddenly their voices come even from the 10 cookie MLAs that we need a separate administration, as if it is a consequence to something that happened. I say this is not a consequence. It was a hypothesis. It was a deductive argument you are raising, that you have a statement, and in order to justify that statement, there are certain points, premises that keeps coming. Because the way this UKLF chief has said that BJP made a promise, we helped them to win election, and they have to give us the separate administration which they promised. So that means this was promise was made some 5-6 years ago. So whatever was happening looks like an accident. Seems to be a very well-planned activities, human-made tragedy. So I'm submitting now, finally, Wasbir, just half a minute, that now that the Meitei is filled, which you said, that a real threat into the territoriality. Now, again, I say as a Meitei, for us, somewhere down the line, it is maybe right or wrong, but this historicity of a close association with the land, not necessarily the land you live all the time, day to day, but somewhere I say that for the indigenous people, land is an extended self. I am Bhagat, not merely as a professor, I'm a Meitei, and the land where I live. And I would like to die in the land where I'm living. I would not like to stay in Delhi and spend my rest of my retired life. Land is extremely important. But that land is not sacrosanct to the extent that it is only Meiteis or Nagas or Kukis. We can all live together, and that is where we have.
That is why is it becoming difficult to live together? Or is this the view of the groups which are asking for a separate administration? Or is
I
it the
ask now, Wasbir,
is it the
I
view?
ask now to those who are asking separate administration. There is an institution called Assembly, Manipur State Assembly. You have 20 tribal MLAs, out of which 10 are cookies, 10 BJP MLAs, 2 of them are cabinet ranked ministers. What were they doing? If there is any plan put out in the assembly, they could have raised it. If the Meitei MLAs stopped them, they can use the media, they can speak out in the assembly. Why outside the assembly? I just want to know.
Why outside the assembly? Unfortunately, I don't have a politician from the BJP today to defend itself, but yes, I'll go for a short break. When I come back, I'll go to 𝗡𝗢𝗦𝗘 and 𝗠𝗓𝗡 Hussain and of course Professor Bhagat. And don't go away, I'll be right back.
Mandir, not Guwahati, cordially inviting you to participate in Sri Jagannath Rath Yatra 2023, Chariot Ride of the Lord of the Universe, June 20th, 2023, Tuesday, 3 p.m. onwards. Chief guest, Dr. 𝗡𝗢𝗙 Biswa Sharma, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam.
শিশুৱে সাধাৰণতে গাখীৰ নাখায়। সেয়ে ভাৰতত প্ৰথমবাৰৰ বাবে আমি গৰুৰ গাখীৰৰ পৰা প্ৰস্তুত কৰিছো পতঞ্জলি দুধ বিস্কিট। আৰু সেয়াও ময়দা, কোলেষ্ট্ৰল আৰু ট্ৰান্স ফেট ৰহিত। পতঞ্জলি দুধ বিস্কিটৰ এটা পেকেটত আছে 1 কাপ পৰিমাণৰ গৰুৰ গাখীৰৰ স্বাস্থ্যকৰ সোৱাদ।
A part of illustrious Manipal Group, Sikkim Manipal Institute of Technology, with a pan-India student diversity, provides world-class facility and infrastructure for a holistic growth. With NEP-aligned multidisciplinary research degree, we at SMIT are inspired by life.
Savlon Glycerin Soap skin moisturize কৰে আৰু skin কৰি তোলে ইমান সফট যে আপুনি আপোনাৰ সফটনেছৰ বাবে জনাজাত হৈ পৰিব সফট skin Savlonৰ সুৰক্ষাৰ সৈতে
এতিয়া Savlon নতুন কুল চপত Savlonৰ সুৰক্ষাৰ লগতে যি দিয়ে কুল ফিলিং আৰু সফট স্কিন
মায়ে নিজ হাতেৰে মঠি উলিওৱা ঘিৰ দৰে সুস্বাদু আৰু স্বাস্থ্যসন্মত পতঞ্জলি গাই গৰুৰ দেশী ঘি খাওক নিজৰ পৰিয়ালক ভেজালকৰণৰ বিহৰ পৰা ৰক্ষা কৰক
If you want to become a government-certified fitness trainer, nutrition coach, join Northeast #1 fitness institute, FitPro Fitness Academy at Gold's Gym, Ganeshguri. 100% placement guaranteed. Join us today and no-cost EMI is available.
হাৰ্ট কোলেষ্ট্ৰল মেদবহুলতা আৰু মধুমেহ ৰোগীৰ বাবে সৰ্বশ্ৰেষ্ঠ হৈছে পতঞ্জলি ফিজিক্যালি ৰিফাইন্ড ৰাইচ ব্ৰেন অইল আৰু কচ্চি বিশুদ্ধ সৰিয়হ তেল
Britannia Pure Magic Gooey Choco. Feel that crunch. Live this moment. Britannia Pure Magic. Ding ding ding.
এই ফূৰ্তি হ'ল মুন্নিৰ 1000 দিন পূৰ্ণ হোৱাৰ এনে আনন্দৰ মুহূৰ্তত মনত ৰাখিব লগা কথা কি হয় হয় গৰ্ভত পাৰ হোৱা 9 মাহ আৰু প্ৰথম 2টা বছৰ হ'ল শিশুৰ বাবে অত্যন্ত গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ সেই কাৰণে শিশু খুব মৰম কৰক তাৰ লগত খেলক কাহিনী শুনাওক গান গাওক কিন্তু তাৰ আগত পৰাপক্ষত খং নকৰিব আৰু উদাস নহব কিয়নো শিশুৰ 80% লৈ মানসিক বিকাশ হয় এই প্ৰথম 1000 দিনতে আৰে মই অলপ কি আতৰিলো কেক সাফা দিয়া মুকু দিয়া পালন 1000 আৰম্ভণি সুখময় যদি জীৱন সফল
Welcome back. Before going to 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡, let us listen to what Manipur Chief Minister 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗙 Singh had said on the 12th of June. Let's listen into 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗙 Singh quickly before I go to 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏𝗡.
Give a chance for peace. हो गया जो हो गया तो अभी पीस के चांस देना है सब क्योंकि many children are not getting proper education, proper health care, proper care, and many always people's portions facing struggles. We do understand how the people are suffering in the state of Manipur due to this present crisis. My honest appeal to the people of the state: give a chance for peace.
Okay. Now, Chitra, on 12th of June, Chief Minister said, "Jo ho gaya, forget about it. Give peace a chance." Now the focus should be on relief, treatment for those affected and injured. Now my question is, I want your comments on this question, which I'm asking you now. Government of India formed a 51-member peace committee headed by the governor of Manipur. Now, the COCOMI has pulled out, Kuki INPI had pulled out, and ITLF had pulled out, and some prominent individuals like Ratan Thiam had pulled out. Now, the question is, they said that the Kukis say that how can Chief Minister 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗙 Singh, who they see as a perpetrator, be in the peace committee? My question is, after all, 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗙 Singh is the Chief Minister of the state. He is not the Chief Minister of the Métis. Lot of people are asking, what prevents him? What prevents him from pulling out or stepping down from the peace committee? If that helps the peace committee to start work, what prevents Chief Minister 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗙 Singh at least to take the minimum step of pulling down from the peace committee? Is he worried that if he pulls down, it will be seen as a cookie appeasement and it might anger the Meiteis further. How do you look at it, Chitra?
I wish I was a fly on Biren Singh's wall in his house, in his official quarters, and I would know. But, this whole entire peace narrative, it's very, I think one of the other reasons why many people are pulling out, number one, especially Guru Ratan Thiam and the Kukumi also is a very strong statement coming from the cookies that we are not ready to talk to any Meitei civil society groups. We are not ready to sit with the government unless and until a separate administration agenda is, discussed. So having said that, when you already announced that as a certain condition, then there is no room for discussions. It would only be a waste of time. So I think that as to whether Biren should step down, I wish it was
not from chief ministership. I'm asking from the peace committee.
From the peace committee. See, I think this is something that is best addressed by the chief minister himself, number one, and also we have to look at how the federal system of the Indian the constitution and how it lays down when there is a committee, and by dint of him holding the home portfolio, he is held accountable. But we also have a Dongil who was the police head at that point of time, and there were questions raised that if Dongil has been given another posting or another assignment, why is it that Biren is still there? But having said that, it's quite. I think we are in a catch-22 position where...
Catch-22, that is the point. Catch-22 situation.
Where even if we take off Biren from the peace committee, is it really going to save the purpose? And if it is going, then somebody should really convince Biren to step down from that.
Chitra, some beginning has to be made somewhere. Let me go to Hoinu Hauzal. Hoinu, is it difficult for the cookies to talk peace? I don't know whether all cookie groups are saying that, okay, there is no scope of talking to the government or the Meitei civil society unless a separate administration is granted. Don't you think it is a hardline position? Don't you think these are two things? One, the demand. This is not the first time the demand for a separate administration or a separate arrangement for the cookies has not started on the 3rd of May. This demand, you see the SOO groups, the suspension of operation agreement was signed in 2008. And after that, between 2008 and now, several memorandums were given by the SOO groups to the government while they were talking peace, that there has to be some kind of a separate arrangement for the cookies. Now my question is, separate arrangement, the political demand is a separate demand, and we are talking about the peace committee not to resolve the demand, to bring about peace in the immediate current context. Don't you see a difference there?
Okay, I'm just going to get back to Professor Bhagat. Professor Bhagat, don't be apologetic about having a different ideology. If we all subscribe to one ideology, the world would be a very dangerous space to live in. So I mean, different ideology brings in different perspectives, so I'm happy with that. On what you said about, I also did read a news report wherein a cookie militant within court were aided a certain political group to win an election. Perhaps they could have bartered some agreement. That is a serious allegation that needs to be investigated by all means. And about a theory of was this pre-planned by the other party, I would also like to submit that on this side of my world, there is also a presumption that perhaps this was all pre-planned. Otherwise, a particular colony in Imphal called the Langol, why was all the house of the tribals marked in blood? There were people who came to their homes asking their ethnicity. And when they look back, I have a video and a photograph where all the hill tribes' homes were actually marked in red. And the precision with which an attack was carried out on the night of 3rd May, could it be done without being prepared? So if we have to go back, I think we won't really end up anywhere. So I think both sides do have an opinion, and we do feel that it was engineered. Therefore, that needs to be investigated. So we leave that to the hands of people concerned to really look into that. But as far as separate administration is concerned, I don't think the hill tribes at least the zones or so, I don't think that was a part of the political aspiration. Now the situation was, it stems from being very hurt. For instance, if I look at the place where we stayed in Imphal for years, my grandfather lived among the Métis, and we considered it home. To be driven out, there can be nothing more hurtful than that. Now there's already a geographical divide. So then what is the solution then from here on?
That is the moot point.
From here on, what is it?
What is
right
the solution?
Now,
that is
a geographical divide, a clear geographical divide.
Absolutely.
So this talk of separate administration does not come from an aspiration. It comes from being pushed in the wall, and perhaps they're saying, put this bit away.
Yeah.
So
if I'm trying
we want somebody to lead and guide us to see what's the way then.
If I am seen as trying to cut people, my esteemed panelists, if I am seen as trying to cut my esteemed panelists short, that is only for the sake of time. I want to bring in different viewpoints. I am coming to you, Professor Oinam, but let me welcome Dr. 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡, Assistant Professor of History at the Guwahati University in the studios with me. Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡, I can understand that Guwahati traffic is terrible. The weather is absolutely bad. That took you long time from Guwahati University to reach my studios. Any case, welcome. Now we are not talking, Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗡, we are not talking about why the violence occurred, or cookies are killers, or Métis are killers, who started first. That is no point. Now we are basic focus of this discussion. This is my second discussion on the very, very frightening situation in Manipur, is how to achieve peace. Now 𝗟𝗓𝗓 𝗡𝗢𝗥, a journalist, well-known journalist based in New Delhi, she said that she said that the cookie groups are saying that there can be no face-to-face dialogue with the Métis unless a separate administration is granted. Now my question is, separate administration is a political demand that can't we keep the political demand on one side and talk peace so that Manipur becomes peaceful now? Killings and counter killings should stop, houses should stop burning, and the future of the children, educational future of the children is not put into further jeopardy. What are your thoughts? Do you think without a separate administration, no dialogue is possible even to end the current violence? Political demands will come later. Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗡.
Yes, thank you, Wasbir, for inviting. I do not know about peace, but because both sides, even Kokumi had declared national war, and the cookies also have, put forward their points since the beginning. So peace will be, difficult at the moment, but violence should stop. People should, government and even civil society, or everybody who are on the stake, all the stakeholders should, initiate to stop violence.
Right. Professor Bhagat Oinam, now, do you think that it is administrative measures alone can bring peace in Manipur now? I'm not talking about permanent peace. Permanent peace will require a lot of political engagements. Everybody has their demands. There is a demand now for inclusion of Métis in the scheduled tribe list. There is a demand for a separate administration. That is, let's keep that aside. Now to achieve peace, do you think the government alone can do it? Because despite the presence of 60,000 security forces, that includes the army, police, Assam Rifles, and the other paramilitary forces, that even their law and order situation, it has been some kind of a control, but not fully controlled. People are still on the streets burning homes. Of course, the army also is, fighting with one hand tied, because they cannot fire at a civilian population blocking the road. They cannot fire at a large mob coming out. They cannot open fire. It will be disaster. Now, what are your thoughts? How to diffuse the current crisis without a dialogue?
See, let me play devil's advocate now.
Yes.
Not necessarily my position, but I'm just drawing up a strange argument now that, if peace has to be done, after every war there is always peace. We don't endlessly fight. The war sometimes has to come to a possible logical conclusion where both the parties are weakened they are but to come to terms with one another, or one of the party is a winning party, the other lost and they surrender, and then they come to a negotiating table. This is what happens in India-Pakistan war, in many of the battles you have seen, and even in Europe. So if you do that, if you are waiting that peace has to come without considering the conditions or aspirations, that will be absurd. Frankly speaking, after all, that peace dialogue, who is going to maintain? I and you talk, and somebody else who is headlong into getting their political agenda, they will continue to create, havoc. So peace will not be meaningful unless you engage every representatives from every walk of life. That is my...
But today, Hoino, today what Professor Oinam is saying, you have to engage people from every walk of life. But when 10 cookie MLAs are not able to come to the valley since the 3rd of May, not able to engage in their political activity or a political face-to-face dialogue with their leaders, because they are still part of the parties they belong to. They still continues to be member of the Manipur Legislative Assembly. They continues to be minister. These 2 of the 10 cookie MLAs are ministers, and they have not been dropped from the ministry by Biren Singh. They are still ministers, but they are not doing their work. Do you think there is a complete governmental dysfunction that has and even the bureaucracy seems to be polarized, and bureaucracy seems to be divided on ethnic lines, and a lot of the government officers are also not in Churachandpur or in Imphal, depending on which community they belong to. Now the point is, do you think in this kind of a situation, can anybody regain peace, or is it a military solution? Certainly not. How do you look at it?
Wasbir, in order to yearn for peace, there has to be a certain intent. There has to be a body language. There has to be sincerity. There has to be transparency in a search for peace. That has to come from the top, and it has to trickle down. You cannot demand peace. You have to seek it. You have to have a certain body language. It has to be manifested in a certain body language that you want it, that you intend to have that. The intent has to be clear. So unless and until we see that coming from the top, somebody has to lead us. Now, who's the person who's going to be leading us? We saw the breakdown or the derailment of 2 could have been a very important bodies. The Inquiry Commission that was set up on the 4th of June and the Peace Committee on the 10th of June.
Yeah.
Were people like Professor Bhagat Singh, or people who could have been instrumental. In my mind, there's just one person that comes, Mr. G.K. Pillai. Unlike any other person who has been posted in Northeast, he went out beyond his call of duty. He understood, he was sensitive about it. Why was people like G.K. Pillai left out? We need a third eye. We need somebody who can help us look at it objectively. Why don't they engage? There's so many people around. There's so many people who could have been really helpful and constructively help us pave the way. Why weren't the people looked at it? Even in the formation of that, why weren't people thinking people of Manipur being a part of that? Something as important.
Absolutely.
And it touched our life. So it just cannot be discussed, or it just cannot be formed on our basis, on behalf of us. We all have to be a part of it.
Absolutely, all of that. Chitra, final comments from you. I'll take a round from my 2 other panelists, Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛 and Professor Bhagat Oinam. But Chitra first. Chitra, Manipur is the majority community. Let's face it, the Métis. The Métis, I have always been saying that they want the territorial integrity of Manipur preserved. Now, obviously, no Métis can say that, okay, we want the entire land of Manipur, but we don't want certain people stay in Manipur. Let them go wherever they like. That cannot be the solution. If the majority community is talking about integration of Manipur, they're very much within their right to talk about preserving the integrity of Manipur, of course. Like none of us in this panel can ever say that we do not want India's integrity to be preserved. That is foremost. That's understandable. Now, it is not a question of Mete and cookies. Don't you think it's a question of preserving the future of Manipur? Finally, final comments.
I mean, I think I started out by saying that, that what is happening really saddens and makes you lose hope. But before I come to that, I just wanted to use this time and just clarify something that Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗪 had just said about that 𝗡𝗢𝗡 declaring public war. And I think this is just part of the problem, that there is so much of misinformation being spread. And I think it might be also because of the fact that news is not going, to both sides. There was a public convention that was organized by the 𝗡𝗢𝗡, but it was not a national war against the cookies. It was a national war against narco-terrorism. They said it in Manipuri, and maybe there might have been issues with the translation, but even in the English media, it emphatically says that there are two things that they said. One, that we declare national war against narco-terrorism in Manipur. And number two, we are declaring a public emergency. Again, when we say public
emergency. Can I add something?
Hang on. So that was an emergency where they were saying that because of the situation now, we ask for people not to celebrate and go for grand celebrations, that we should realize that things are happening. So that is there.
Yeah. Now, let me add one more point. There were also widely reported that in that public convention, a resolution was taken asking those who had snatched the weapons not to return them because they have to defend themselves. Now, later on, it was said that that resolution, there was some confusion that the resolution was changed, but nobody again came to the media with the fresh resolution, if at all. So I don't know what exactly is the position. I am not. I don't know what is true. What is true? I have no idea.
Okay, I have the resolutions which are signed. Sent to me by friends in the media from the IPR, and doesn't mention anything about the arms.
Okay, good.
So
if it doesn't mention anything about the arm, I take it from you. I take your point. Now, let me come to Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗪𝗡𝗢𝗪. What is the road ahead? Sorry, you came late, so you didn't get much time to speak. It's no fault of yours or mine. Now, Dr. 𝗡𝗢𝗪𝗡𝗢𝗪, what are the 3 steps that you recommend for peace now? Because you see, we cannot level allegations and counter allegations, as all our esteemed panelists who are thinkers in their own right. They are very, very well-meaning people. They are reasonable people, including you. Now, my point is, what are the 2 to 3 steps that you recommend immediately so that Manipur comes back to normal? Because before this situation started, we had some fantastic headline-grabbing events held in and around Imphal. There was the Hun Festival, there was the G20 meeting, there was the Femina Miss India finale. There was so many. Manipur was in the news for all the right reasons until this happened. So what are the 3 steps for peace now? Very in brief.
Number one, I know many people have already spoken time and again. So without president rule, it will be difficult. Number one, president rule should be immediately imposed in Manipur. And because this can happen because during the time of Congress government in past many years, when Indira Gandhi and other Congress leaders have imposed president rule in their Congress run state, I think BJP government also can try this one once. So second thing is, all the paramilitary forces that are already employed in Manipur should should enter between the Meiteis and the Cookies and try to control somehow all the violence whichever comes from maybe from the valley or from the hills. So, and thirdly, civil society also should try to restrain from all these emotional driven activities.
Yes.
So, and finally, I would appeal to all my fellow man and citizen of Manipur, because I was born in Manipur, I was brought up in Manipur, I have completed my PhD in Manipur University. So I was a part of every civil society in Manipur. So I appeal to my all fellow citizens of Manipur, somehow to control our children from both the communities, not to come out, to fight the other, your brethren, because the kind of situation that is taking place from since 3rd May had set in the long, and a very long shared history of the Meiteis and the Kukis. Meiteis and Kukis are not different identities. If we look at several writings of the past, you can see both are the same community. Look at if you look at Wilfred Hitchcock books on the peripheras of Eritrean Sea, then Edwin T. Alkinson writing on the Himalayan Gazetteers, descriptive ethnology of Bangor and by E.T. Dalton, and John H. Hurt's Indica, the country and people of India, and several other writings like Taranatha's history of Buddhists and so on and so forth.
I mean, the history.
So
the history of living together.
Their living together has been portrayed in several books.
Right.
How comes, what makes the, some of the valley people or maybe the hill or, these communities,
so these, absolutely,
dissected from each other?
Yes, yes. Final comments from you, Professor Bhagat Oinam. Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗛𝗏 saying that he has urged the civil society also to rise above emotions. Because this is very important. I personally don't think it is the solution lies in the hands of the government to restore immediate peace. I think the solution lies in the hands of ordinary people like us and the civil society. And Professor 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏's appeal, rise from emotions at this juncture. Final comments from you, Professor Oinam.
Thank you, Wasbir, and very quickly, and I also agree with what Dr. 𝗡𝗢𝗥𝗧𝗏 said, but then the greatest of the war, Mahabharata, was fought between the brothers, the blood relations. So this is all that is happening, Kukis and Meiteis. So who will be Pandavas and who is Kauravas, the time will only tell. But the point, what is important now for me is this peace committee perhaps was very quickly made. More thought could have gone in. But to me, what I feel is the immediate necessity, and this perhaps should not be even aired out in the television, but I'm nobody so I can speak out, is that there has to be fillers. There has to be individuals, either sponsored or unsponsored, voluntarily talking to both these groups. Some people have to, invisible from the masses, have to begin.
Absolutely.
And that is how only it can create ripple effect. Absolutely. Just, parachuting a peace committee is not going to help. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I would suspect these fillers are already being sent. But what might take away from the last comment of Professor Bhagat Oinam is his example of the Mahabharata, which were fought among brothers. At least there is an admission that the Kukis and the Meiteis are brothers who are fighting each other, and the fight between the brothers can certainly be tackled. I don't think it is something that is absolutely impossible to achieve. On that note, we all want that peace should return as early as possible to Manipur, and panelists like you, I would like to thank all of you for talking in a very, very reasonable manner in this debate tonight, and I'd also like to thank the viewers for watching the show. Good night and goodbye.
হাৰ্ট, কোলেষ্ট্ৰল, মেদবহুলতা আৰু মধুমেহ ৰোগীৰ বাবে সৰ্বশ্ৰেষ্ঠ হৈছে পতঞ্জলি ফিজিকেলি ৰিফাইন্ড ৰাইচ ব্ৰেন অইল আৰু 𝗡𝗢𝗏𝗓 বিশুদ্ধ সৰিয়হ তেল।
A part of illustrious Manipal Group, Sikkim Manipal Institute of Technology with a pan-India student